Hey, 7th grade, Mr. Herzberg here. Today is Wednesday, April 29th, 2020. Wednesday means chapter 12 of the Pigman. We're also going to be going over chapter 11 questions from Monday night. And we'll be going over today's journal and this week's standard again. Let's get started. So this week, remember our standard is reading informational text 7.3. That means we are going to be taking a look at pulling out interactions in the text. How does the author interact with his life, her life, or facts or things like that, anecdotes, like life experience, to help you and us understand, more specifically, the topic. Today you're going to be reading about the space race. A little background on that. World War II drew to a close. The United States and at the time Russia or the Soviet Union was looking to be the first one to get into space successfully, and then even after that make their way to a man on the moon. So lots of political war came with that, and lots of other sort of a whole new era of what we call the Cold War with Russia. We call it that because of how cold it is there. The prominent humanity didn't make it to space. So in October 4th of 1957, Sputnik was sent up, and it kind of jump-started all this. So as you read through all this today, I'm not going to go through all of it. You're going to have one assignment to do, and on your Google Doc, remember, I want you to explain how the Soviet Union space program influenced the presidents at that time. Okay, so we had Kennedy, more specifically, if you remember his speeches, and Cape Canaveral, and all that kind of started happening, but there was other presidents as well. Go through that article and see if you can tell me how all the Soviet Union's space programs influenced our presidential administrations throughout this Cold War. Throughout this Cold War. Okay. If you have any questions, come to the Google Meet from 2 to 2:30, or excuse me, 1:30 to 2, and we'll go over those. Let's go over the other night's homework. So, what lie does John tell to the police officers, and why? John lies to the police in chapter 11 of the Pigman, and he tells them that he and Lorraine are actually Mr. Pignati's children. And he tells them that because he doesn't want them to know that there's these random teenagers hanging out with a random old guy. It doesn't seem right to tell the police that. Why did John and Lorraine skip school? They skipped school to go visit Mr. Pignati in the hospital to see how he's recovering from his massive heart attack. What does Mr. Pignati offer John and Lorraine? In your opinion, is it a good idea to accept his offer? Why? He offers them the key to his house. They give him back the key. They say, here's the key to your house, Mr. Pignati. He says, keep it. Go over there anytime you like for, TV, food. The whole place is yours. I would say it's probably not a good idea for them to accept his offer. While it's nice, it's just not appropriate for teenagers to be hanging out with an old man. But John and Lorraine, more specifically John being John, he's going to take it. John is a very opportunistic character, as we've learned. He's going to take every opportunity he gets. What request does Mr. Pignati make? He requests that they go visit Bobo at the zoo and give him the dry roasted peanuts that is his favorite. How does John feel about hospitals? He doesn't like them. He said the smell, the look, the sounds, the sights. He says it all reminds him of people or death, and it just kind of freaks him out. How are chapter 10 and 11 turning points in the Pigman? It's a turning point because the kids go from kind of being a prank with Mr. Pignati and lying to him about their names, but it's changing into this point now where they're getting closer to him. It's not just about the LNJ fund and this guy that we prank called. It's going a lot deeper and a little more complex. They care about him. They're actually growing feelings for him. Why does John go upstairs? They go back to Mr. Pignati's. John goes upstairs, goes into Mr. Pignati's closet and starts pulling out some of his old formal clothes, suit, tie, things like that. How does John and Lorraine's relationship change? Well, Lorraine goes upstairs during this time. She's cooking dinner. She sees John come downstairs with his suit on, and he's drawn on a silly mustache on his face. And she goes upstairs and puts on Conchetta, Mr. Pignati's wife's, old clothes. And they start kind of chasing each other around the room, and next thing you know, they're kissing. So their relationship has gone from friendly to a romantic relationship. And it's moving very quickly. And they go back downstairs and they have their dinner. So let's see what happens in chapter 12 and see how this relationship changes. I wish this one would hurry up and croak, because her husband has been getting a little too friendly lately. Yes, Mother. Any man who can think of flirting with another woman while his wife is on her deathbed deserves to be shot. Mom, can I have 75 cents to get my blue dress out of the cleaners? I asked, though I could tell by the way she was fidgeting with her hairbrush that she was not finished talking. Get out my pocketbook, Lorraine, and hand me my compact while you're at it. She loosened the knot of her bathrobe and sat down at the table. You know that man calls me out in the hall and asks how his wife is doing? And then all the time he's got his hands in his pockets and is giving me this weird wink? I don't know, Lorraine, what he had. He'd heard about nurses, but I think I set him straight. I went into the bedroom and I started straightening things up, hoping my mom would stop repeating herself. I looked him right in the eye and I said, Mr. Mooney, I think it would be a nice gesture if you went in and held your wife's hand for a little while. It might help her forget the pain from her cancer. I have to leave for school now, Mom, I said, wondering what she'd do if she was taking care of Mr. Pignotti. Lorraine, get over here and give me a kiss before you leave. Be careful today, Lorraine. Don't you think that skirt is a little too short for you today? It's the longest skirt in the sophomore class, Mom. Don't you be fresh with me, Lorraine. Just because all the other girls have sex on their minds doesn't mean you have to as well. John wasn't at the bus stop that morning, but we finally got together during third period. His hair was combed for the first time in months, and he actually had on a clean shirt. I could tell he was still charged up over us having the Pigman's house to ourselves. I didn't get in until the start of second period. How come, John? Bore. He wanted to know how I could be missing for 42 homework assignments and problems in American democracy, and I told him it was because I can't concentrate with a vacuum cleaner going on all the time. Then he went off on this big new plan that how he's going to check my homework every night. That'll last about a day or two until he's too tired or too busy. As he spoke, he dragged me to the payphone in the hall near the principal's office. Operator? Yes, sir. Just lost my dime trying to get to St. Ambrose Hospital. I got some saloon by mistake. What number did you want, sir? SA 77295, please. Let me take care of that for you, sir. Thank you, operator. When the hospital answered, John passed the phone to me, and we stood in the hall of the school to watch for any teachers because the kids aren't allowed to use the phone at the high school unless they get a special pass. And even then, it's got to be to call your mom to say the school nurse has just diagnosed you with leprosy or something. They gave me the nurse on Mr. Pignotti's floor, and she told me that he was going to be in there for at least 72 hours, the danger period when a lot of people take a second attack and die. She sounded very nice when I told her I was his daughter, and she tried to explain something about the high voltage machine they've got, which is supposed to come in handy if a second heart attack does occur. Saturday would probably be the earliest he should leave here. Thank you, ma'am. But don't worry about your father. We're taking very good care of him. Thank you. As soon as he wakes up from this morning's nap, I'll tell you we called. I hung up. Is he all right? John asked. Oh, he's fine, I said. John had the idea it was going to be great fun going over to the house by ourselves, but it didn't work out that way. Monday, we had spaghetti dinner and put on those costumes. It was a lovely evening and all. It really was. I think we were actually looking at each other in the candlelight, and it was the first time I was glad to be alive. I didn't know exactly why. It was sort of silly, I guess. Him with his mustache and me with my feather in my hair. But somehow it was as if we were being told about something wonderful and beautiful, waiting, and it was just for me. All I had to do was wait long enough. Tuesday night, I made TV dinners in the oven and burned them. They were supposed to be pork chops, but John said they looked like fried dwarf's ears. Wednesday, we stopped by the house for some beer and pretzels, but I knew it wasn't going to get out that night because my mom was on the warpath over anti-fermenting in the kitchen. Thursday, we didn't go over there at all because we really had to go to the library for this report on problems in American democracy. Here's the assignment. Read the amendments to the Constitution and condense the meaning of one into each subject sentence, also answering the following questions. Which amendment is the most important in your life? And which amendment is least important? Number 3, what amendment would you make to the Constitution if you were president? On Friday, we cut school since that's the last day before Mr. Pignotti was due back home. We got to his house around 8:45 in the morning, and I went right into the kitchen and started making breakfast. John wanted scrambled eggs with sloppy Joe sauce, and that's what he got. I just had scrambled eggs with pizza-flavored ketchup. I burned the toast a little, and that was the first of a long list of complaints from Mr. John Conlon. "Ah," he groaned. "I'll put some more bread on, John. It's too late now. My eggs are going to get cold." Then he didn't like my coffee. I tried to explain to him you can't run instant coffee, but he kept insisting I did. I showed him the directions on the label, how you take a level teaspoon out and just boil water, but he insisted that there was some kind of skill involved. After breakfast, I asked him very nicely to take out the garbage, but he refused. "Why should I put the garbage in, Lorraine, when you're the one who makes it?" "You make just as much as I do." "I do not. Your beer cans, John, take up most of the space in the garbage." Just shut up and do the dishes, Lorraine." That's the kind of day it started out to be. I wanted to put place in order so that Mr. Pigman got back to his house, he wouldn't find a pig house. But the way John was acting, I was beginning to feel sorry for his mother, if he always has to act so infantile at home. "John, could you at least do the dishes?" "Nope." "You could at least do your own dishes." Every now and then I'm startled at how good looking John is, but he glared at me from under the shock of that hair, fell across his brow, and it scared me a little. I knew something was bothering him, and I didn't mean the dishes or the garbage. If I didn't know how maladjusted John is at times, I would simply have walked out of the house and not spoken to him as long as I lived. But I let it pour in front of the TV and watched the rerun of Doris Day's By the Light of the Silvery Moon. This particular mood in John had been building up since I kissed him that night. I don't know, whatever it was, he just started thinking about our relationship, that I might possibly be something more than his friend. I don't know, but suddenly we had become slightly awkward around one another. Of course, I'd always been clumsy around John, but at least I knew I had been in love with him for months. I always knew he liked me, but only as a friend or a dreamboat with a leak in it. But now suddenly he was wearing shaving lotion around me and combing his hair and fighting with me. There was something about all that made me smile as I scraped the sloppy Joe sauce onto his plate. "I guess I'll take the garbage out now," he said, appearing in the doorway. "I'd appreciate that, John. Thank you." "I'm only doing it because the Pigman's coming home, Lorraine, tomorrow. And, we better have this little hovel looking better." Of course. We really wanted to work the house over and fix it up better than before. The only room we didn't touch was the one with all the pigs in it. There was something almost religious about that room, as though it contained a spirit that belonged to Mr. Pigman. And it was best left alone. Once I had a nightmare about that room. I was walking down a hall and saw curtains in the doorway. Even though I was dreaming, I knew exactly where I was, and I felt icy, chill run through me. I wanted to run away, but something was pushing me towards the curtains, and I started to scream for John. Help me, please." I couldn't stop my legs from moving across and closer, as if a large hand was fastened to me, pushing me. The room was very dark, though. I could make out the shapes of the pigs, but instead of being a table with the pigs, a long black container. I started to realize it was the fingers propelling my legs, tightening as I moved closer. I felt horrible force taking control of me, and I couldn't stop my hands from moving down the lid of the box. When I touched my hands went cold, and I knew it was about to open a coffin. I started crying and pleading to call to God to stop me as the lid began to rise. That was when I woke up screaming. Right then and there, I should have known the dream was an omen of death. "Lorraine! What's going on in there?" I called from the sofa where I was admiring how clean everything looked. I heard John rummaging through the closets in the kitchen and banging bottles. I went to see what he was doing, and he had the kitchen table loaded with every beer he could find in the house. It wasn't enough to keep the Stork Club in business, but there were a few quarts of beer and wine. "John, what are you doing?" "Is there any more beer in the icebox, Lorraine?" "What? What's going on? What are you doing?" He opened the refrigerator himself and counted about 9 loose cans of beer. Then he slammed the door and went on to the living room to the telephone. "We're going to have a few friends over for drinks tonight, Lorraine." "Are you crazy?" "Just a few friends. A quiet little drink. Don't you think Mr. Pigman wants us to have a social life?" He smiled, his great big eyes glowing. Stop there. John and Lorraine's relationship is getting way more complicated. They're acting like an old married couple almost, and John is still taking advantage of every situation he can, and Lorraine she's trying to be a little more assertive, but she's still a pushover, and it's unfortunate. And it's we're about to hit the climax here and come down off the roller coasters. John's setting into a motion here, events that are going to be pushing the book to its final conclusion. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll be at the Google Meet from 1:30 to 2. See you guys later.